As a software developer, do you ever think about how you practice being a software developer? I just watched a video from Nate Jones and love his content. He usually is talking about AI, and this video he was talking about AI as well, also, but he was talking about just practice as knowledge workers. And the way he framed it, I liked. He was talking about, like, if you're a musician, say you play guitar or piano is probably I'm more familiar with. You know, you would sit there and you'll play scales, you will play chords, do stuff like that, right? Make sure that you know, you know where everything is and that your finger movements are good and that you're just able to play it. And it's not the same as performing a song. And even you'll practice playing a song, you might have like certain sections of the song that you'll go back to and you'll play over and over until you just boom, it's automatic. But as knowledge workers in general, how do you practice that? And I've been thinking about it and I have some ideas. And it's freaking cold out here, so I'm going to go inside. So the workout is pretty straightforward. I have a warm up. Didn't really video it, but part of the warm up is doing some physical therapy on my shoulders. I don't know what these are called. I just use a cable machine and just I'm pulling the weight across my body in both directions on my left side and then my right side. And just to get both sides in both directions, you just make a 180 and keep going. And then I was doing heel taps because I do lunges all the time. So just for some variety, just to warm up my legs, just some simple heel taps. And then for the main part of the workout, we just did lat pull downs. It was, I think that was 5x7 that I was doing. So, and then that's it. The whole thing, I think I was in the gym for maybe 40 minutes for all of the warm up. And I do 3 rounds of, the pullovers and the heel taps, and then 5x7 for the lat pull downs. I think I'm pulling down, well, actually, I know I'm pulling down 209 right now. I was pulling down 245, but I've gone down in weight a little bit. I'm focused on pulling to my chest, not just getting my chin over the bar, but pulling to my chest because this is what I use to build pull-ups. So that's the workout. So first I try recording in the truck on the way back to continue this vlog. The dongle that goes in the phone fell out, so the audio was picking up just on the mic, and all you could hear was the heater. You could hear me talking, but the audio was for crap. So threw that away. I was going to set up and be all cool and have 2 different cameras going. So this is my Samsung Galaxy 10. And Samsung Galaxy is doing what they do best, blow up. So the battery is swollen up all big. So I'm going to take this to a cell phone repair. Yeah, good shit. Anyway, excuse my language. Anyway, this is my small rig monitor. So it lets me see if I'm framed up and what this looks like. Light behind me is not great. Huh. Anyway, let's stop messing around. You don't care. So the workout went pretty good. Today was just lat pull downs. I'm pulling to my chest, and the progression is going to be once I can get back to 245, which I can already do 245, but I'm building at 209. My weight is 213, so I'm at my goal weight. So I'm about to start tapering off the retatrutide, which apparently is good timing, topic for another video. But we're going to cut out the peptides, or at least the GLP-1, and really start focusing on rebuilding all the strength that I lost. But the lat pull downs went great. So I'm pulling my chest. They were good reps the whole way through. So all up to 7 reps in this next go around. I was trying to do some double under work, and I could do them, and I'm really excited. I'm to where sets of 10 are realistic, but Um, this morning it's cold, old man, just whatever excuse. I did I did probably 12 double unders. And it's like, screw this, it doesn't feel good. So I just put everything away and went and did some mobility work and worked on my handstands. The exciting piece of the handstands is I can get up to the wall. Of course, the video, the first one I kicked up is great. My shirt fell down. I don't like that, but it was a really good handstand. I was floating on the wall. I wasn't really touching the wall that much to keep myself up, and I was able to push myself back to the wall, which is something I'm actually working on. I can get myself off the wall, but I can't get myself back onto the wall, which is kind of key to being able to find that balance point and float around it so that I can eventually get up without needing a wall. So we're making progress. And really, it fits into what we're talking about here. You may have learned the basics, say, and specifically as a software developer, you may learn the language and the basics of it, but putting it together to actually produce something valuable that your customers want or that does something useful that you want, which is valuable, right? There's more to it than just learning the language. And so getting into the practice of doing things, and then also developing the taste and judgment of what is good and what is not good, so that you can look at your own code and go, yeah, this is good, and look at other people's code. As you're doing a PR review. And my thinking is, he talked a lot about rubrics, and I'm like, that is really useful. Have you sat down? And I know, have you sat down and actually made like a checklist that says this is what is good code, this is not good code. And there's going to be different aspects. The methods within your class, and there may be differences between your public methods and your private methods. What makes a good private method may be subtly different than what makes a good private or public method. Public, private, anyway. And then at the class level, what makes a class good, and and there's going to be different situations. Are you implementing interfaces? Is this class meant to be used as a composite? Should this class have dependencies injected? Those type of things. And this is one of the things that I see as AI progresses, it's not going to replace developers, because it's never going to have the context that we do in this world. It doesn't have a model of the world that we have. And so this is Trap, by the way. And this one is Sammy, and the small one is Carly. Carly. She's also known as Gremlin. So anyway, it's not going to have that, but you do. And so if you make this checklist, you can actually feed it to your LLM to have it help you evaluate your work. It can look at your checklist that you've given, look at your code, and give you feedback. Did you meet your own standards? And also as a consultant, my background with consulting, I started thinking about, we never really practiced stuff like doing a sales pitch or writing a proposal, or for instance, just along these lines, sitting down in, say, a 2-hour session, do a sprint, simulate it. Backlog grooming, DSU, or your scrum meetings, doing a PR review, and doing these things as a team where the outcome, you're not doing it with live code, you're not doing it for a customer or anything like that. It's practice, so that when you are doing it live, you and your team have done this stuff before together, and you have the communication and the practice of how to do these things, and then creating that checklist that says, okay, this is a good backlog grooming, this is a good sprint plan. All of those type of things would help you. And then also, like, one of the things that we do, kind of a leftover from SAFe, a scalable agile framework. You know, early on when I got recruited, they were going to transform and become a safe shop that died, but solution intents stayed, and I actually like them because the idea behind a solution intent is just a very quick architecture document that kind of lays out, this is bingo, what you're going to do, what the problem is you're trying to solve, what your vision is for the solution, what the design is, and what the success criteria are. Well, again, if you create a rubric that lays out, this is what a good solution intent looks like, you can feed your solution intent to an LLM and it can give you feedback. Now, without that rubric, you could give the LLM your solution intent and have it give you feedback. And it could be useful, but it's not necessarily guided to what you want. And that's the point behind building your rubrics or your checklist, whatever you want to call it. And I was thinking, so with my own AI workflow, where I'll create a folder, for a project. I create a file called requirements.md. My tool called Bones puts Copilot instructions and stuff in there, but I'll go in and I'll fill out requirements, and then I tell Copilot, hey, go review this and ask me questions. Well, if I was to put together a checklist based on all of I've done at this point, 50, just small scripts, and I see that there's a pattern that Copilot has for its questions that it comes back with. And if I would put together a checklist for myself that says, hey, look, before I ask Copilot to review something, if I went through this checklist, then I could shorten up my workflow, the number of cycles Copilot and I go through before we have a requirements document down to, a point where it's ready for it to, actually generate the code. And, just at this point, a lot of the stuff I'm doing is for myself. A lot of these things are around my AI. We really, excuse me. I just trained I forget which is the one of Microsoft's tiny models. I trained it on my email to classify email for me. And going through the process, I had to build a ton of scripts, some of it to get all of the emails out of all of the different email accounts I have, and then build the data set that we used to train with MLX. A lot of work. So it went through a lot of iterations back and forth with Copilot before I finally ended up with a model that I was able to upload to Hugging Face. So we did that. That practice, could I do it again? Yeah, I can, obviously. But the idea, if I practiced, I should be able to do it quicker and quicker. And maybe this becomes a service that I offer to other people. I don't know. At this point, I'm building my digital valet to help myself. We'll see where I go with it. So anyway, the idea behind practice is where I started. And it's, in that, having a rubric that you use to guide your practice, I think is a really cool idea. And it's something I think you should explore. And yeah, so I think I'm going to end this here. Otherwise, I'll talk for an hour and you'll get bored if you're not already. So anyway, have a good afternoon, and I'll see you again later. Bye.